Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you. We have Claudia Salinas. Claudia is the owner and baker of Angel's Bake Shop. Welcome to the show, Claudia.
Hi, everyone.
If people don't know who is Angel's Bake Shop, if you can just give a brief explanation, please.
Uh, I would say we're a local bakery here in Lake Ridge. Started as a home bakery, and we like making things from scratch. We like baking cakes and cupcakes and different pastries throughout the week. We have weekly and monthly calendars, so we switch up the flavors daily just to kind of keep things interesting, right?
Lovely. You said I started as a home bakery, so I can't wait to hear the story of how it all evolved to where you are now.
Oh, Lord. That's a long
But
story. I'll give you
yeah,
the short
well,
story.
yeah, you can give me the short one if you want, or the medium one, whatever you want. But are you originally from the DMV area?
So I was born in Bolivia, and I came here when I was about 13, I believe. And I was raised by my aunt's dad in Falls Church. So I kind of grew up in Falls Church. I went to high school there and everything. Um, when I met my husband and we had our second child, we moved here to Lake Ridge, where he was originally raised and everything. So he kind of wanted to come back home. It took me a little bit to get used to it because it's just a little bit of change, but less traffic here. So, but I love it here. Like we've been here for the past decade, and it's just I can see why he brought me back here. He was like, he's like, I walked the streets when I went to school. He's like, here's where the bus picked me up, and my children get to go to the same schools he went, get to experience like the same clubs or like things, activities that he did. So it's kind of nice seeing them enjoying that and kind of so I love the community here.
Yeah, it is a nice community. That's nice. You mentioned you were born in Bolivia and came to the US at 13, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what part of Bolivia are you from?
Cochabamba.
Okay,
There's
Cochabamba.
a lot of Cochabambinos here. So.
A lot of Bolivians, especially in the Northern Virginia area.
So I do have a lot of family here, actually. A lot of cousins of cousins of cousins, a lot of aunts, which is nice. It's nice to come from a big family, right? Because we all share a big culture. We have events and everything, so it's nice to have family. And my husband has family here too, so yeah, gatherings are always big at home.
Yeah, that's how it is with the Latino community. It's always second, third cousins and aunts and uncles and all that. So it's always yeah, it helps. So if I can take you briefly to a moment back to Cochabamba, how was it growing up there? What were you into? What did you like?
Well, I didn't have like a. I would say, well, so just to give a little background on me, like my mom was a widow of four children, so it wasn't I we didn't have much growing up with. Like we literally just didn't have much, but my mom really instilled in us being honest, being very, like kind and I think real to other people and just like so I don't remember much. I don't know why, to be honest. I remember very little things from Bolivia. I have like very, I would say kind of flashbacks, but I don't
Hmm.
have big memories anymore. It's funny how time has gone by, or because I was, I had to kind of grow up sooner and not have,
Hmm.
I didn't have like a childhood. Like my children get to enjoy that childhood that I wish I had.
Hmm.
But I think because I had to grow up faster because of the situation we were in,
Hmm.
I don't have that many memories. So it's kind of funny that you asked me that, but it's hard to think of one specific one.
So you grew up one out of four. So you said you had to grow up fast. So was it a lot of sort of taking care of your siblings, brothers and sisters?
It was kind of like we had to take care of each other. My
Hmm.
older sister had to take care of us, but then also due to it, like the economic hardship we went in, my sister had to go to another country as she got older when she turned like 19, I believe. And then it was my brother taking care of us, and it was me taking care of my youngest one because my mom had to work. She had to
Hmm.
work a lot, and we had to work with her. So it was kind of like I've been working all my life.
Yeah, at a
But
young age.
I don't resent it, or I don't think about it. I think about it as a life lesson because everything I learned as a child and everything growing up here, it's helped me too. So
Of course. And so when you arrived here, do you remember at least, was it the first time coming to America at 13 or had you come here
no,
before?
it was my first time. Yeah.
Okay. So you arrived to this country. Do you remember that part as far as your first day
Oh yeah, I
setting?
remember
Okay.
that. I remember that. So I arrived and I was with a first I was with a set of with my aunt and uncle. Well, we didn't have a great experience with them when I arrived with and I lived with them. But when I moved with my other aunts, they were amazing. They kind of like they were like it was like having three moms because they would like teach you come here you have to help in the kitchen so you can learn part of like what culture. It's like she would say like un día vas a cocinar para tu esposo, like one day you'll cook for your husband and you got to learn these things. It was kind of nice back then. As a teenager you're like, what do I have to learn this? But now looking back, I'm thankful that they, we share those things. We gather around the table and then we'll either peel potatoes or cut a chicken up and then, cook. I'm thankful we had those experiences.
Would you
But
say,
I loved it.
would you
Sorry.
say was that your sort of your first experience into sort of the kitchen world or the baking with your aunts there, or was it?
No. I was actually talking to I met with my aunt this past weekend and I was telling her that somebody had asked me a few days back, like if I come from a family that bakes. And I was like, not necessarily cakes, but I do remember my grandma back in Bolivia had a bakery, a bread bakery, and like she made pasta too and everything. So I do have glimpses. I'm like, oh my God, I do remember like of her making the yeast and the mix up the flour and then leave because over there, it's not like here, so they don't have proofing ovens. She put it out in the sun and like totally old school. So I remember that. So I'm like, yeah, I do remember the things. I'm like, so I grew up looking at it, like and watching it, but it was never my interest to be honest when I was younger.
Okay. Okay. So then you come here around middle school age and you finish middle school, high school here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after that, what happens? What are you thinking? What are your interests at that point here?
So I wanted to do something in criminal justice. Surprisingly, I wanted to go into criminal justice. I went to a community college and I was doing that and I was working at the same time. And as time went by, as the years go by the second, I think by the time my son was born, my second child, I kind of had fallen out of love with that. And I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. I think we all come to the point where we're like, am I really happy with where I'm heading or like what am I gonna do? And I was like, well, I don't know yet. So I need something creative. My son had just been born, and I think I don't know if I was going through a little bit of a depression. If I'm allowed to say. I think I was. My sister-in-law thought I was. So I found that baking and decorating was kind of like a little outlet. So that's how it started, really.
So you started at home baking.
Yes,
Okay.
about I would say 2010, so like 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
you go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, are you looking at other people's recipes, incorporating some of your own, doing different experiments?
So in the beginning, I was combining recipes. I was trying to come up with experiments, taking something. But I'm self-taught, completely self-taught. Like when people ask me where did you learn everything, I go YouTube University. I know it's not a thing, but like that's literally where I learned a lot of things I've learned. And if I still went by to classes, but most of I would say 90% of what I know I learned it through YouTube. So I would trial and error. Like some of my early work, I'm like, when I look back, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe I even presented that. But that's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Like you try and you try until you finally succeed. So there you go.
Yeah. No, YouTube is it. I was funny. I was talking to one of my boys. I have three boys, and they were asking me something, and I'm like, I wasn't quite sure. And I'm like, you guys are always on YouTube Shorts and looking at videos. I'm just YouTube it, look it up or Google it. But yeah, thank God to YouTube.
Exactly. I mean, you can learn to fix anything nowadays through YouTube. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, that's true. So when you start cooking at home, then I guess you get the word out to close family and friends as far as what you're doing. How does it grow from there?
So I started baking just as a hobby. I was like, hey, I think I'm good at this. I've always been good and crafty with my hands. So, but I was just doing it for like my nephews, nieces, just kind of like just a hobby, total
Mm-hmm.
hobby. Well, I don't one of those days, my mother-in-law calls me and she goes, hey, I need you to make me two cakes. And then I'm like, okay, sure. She said, but I need you to charge me. And I'm like, no, I'm not charging you. I'm just doing this. No, she's like, I need you to charge me and I'm not taking a no for an answer. And I was like, That's the type of woman she is. But I love her to death. I love my mother-in-law. And I was like, okay, fine. I could not say no to her, right? So I did it, and then it kind of felt nice too. I
Yeah.
remember it was $40. I charged her $40, but I was like, whoa, I can do this, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like it started like that, and I I started doing it at first for just friends and family, that direct friends and family. There was no strangers, there was nobody else, right? Because I was like scared. Because you have to realize when you put your work out there, you're putting out there yourself, you open yourself for criticism, and then that's harsh because it's your own work. You're putting so much love into it, and if somebody criticizes, you're like, am I gonna be able to take this, right? But I think a year went by and I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. I don't want to regret not doing it. So I got my license, I got all that stuff, and that's how I started doing it for strangers. And it was kind of word of mouth. It was, oh, a friend of a friend. Now it was no longer just a cousin. It was a cousin of a cousin or a friend of a friend or had gone to a party. So that's how the word spread out. And then once I got into Facebook and social media, it was like, let me take better pictures. Let me do this. Kind of you learn as you go by. Like as time goes by, you learn a lot. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how we started growing.
From when you started, Claudia, with experimenting in the kitchen and baking for the first time to when you actually started, let's say, going onto social and posting on Facebook and other platforms, was that a couple of years? You remember that period of time? How long was it?
Oh yeah. I think it was about 2 years before I
Okay.
was confident enough to be like, hey, I'm offering my services. Anybody out there need a cake? But yeah, it took some time because you kind of have to build some skill. And even then, it's novice. I really wasn't. I was learning as I was going, but yeah, it took about 2 years for me to kind of have the courage to do it.
Sure. Now, during this time, I know you said you had children. Are you also working somewhere, or are you just with the family and doing this?
So I was just at home, staying at home and taking
Mm-hmm.
care of the kids. But I felt like I needed to do something else. Like I just couldn't, like I needed an outlet for myself. And it was kind of nice to be able. I mean, it is a stressful. Let's be honest, it's a stressful working from home, whatever, regardless of what you're doing, because you're trying to keep a human being alive, but
Mm-hmm.
also you're trying to, you know, make a product that is for somebody else. So while it was stressful, I am thankful I had the opportunity to do it because I was able to be there for my children every day, raise them, see their little milestones, and be there for them. So looking back then, I found it stressful, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a break. But when I look at it now that I'm not home, I do miss those little moments.
Yeah. And I know you said you have three children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how old are they now?
So one of them is a senior in high school. She's 17. The other one is 12. They're all 5 years apart, or six, I guess. And then the other one is 6 years old. So they're all in different school grades. But uh, they're awesome. They're amazing. Speaking of my teenager, she comes and works here too. So it's a truly family business. So
Yeah.
she loves working here. She's like, I'd rather work than being at home. And I love that about
That's
her. I
good.
love that she wants to work and wants to learn.
That's good. I was going to ask you, NASCAR, are they all involved in the business? But you mentioned your oldest does work there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's pretty good with her hands as well. I don't know if she'll end up taking over one day or whatever she wants to do, as long as she's happy.
Sure.
I'm okay with that. My husband also, it's actually a co-owner. I call him silent partner because I do everything else, and he just kind of gives me his input. He's like what I will call, I'm a dreamer. I have the visions and the dreams, but he's
Sure.
the realist. He's like, well, back up a little bit. How are we gonna get here, right? You need
Hmm.
somebody like that in your life. So he's also a veteran, by the way. So he's an Army veteran. And then I have the older kids. They come and help here too, believe it or not. Even the little ones will come in and just help clean the office or give me company if it's a long day.
That's good. I love how you expose them to the business and they're able to see whether they're directly involved, like your oldest, or even maybe the youngest, they're just sitting there and just seeing what you're doing, that they're there and they're watching, just almost like you were watching your grandma back in Cochabamba a little bit. It's nice always where you can do that.
Well, and I mean, while no one's doing it at home, they will watch it too. But I think they realize how much work it is, and it's nice for them to kind of see that you have to work hard for things in life, right? It's kind of like, hey, mommy's doing this and everything. And I was reminiscing actually with my daughter the other day, saying there was days where at home I would stay up till 3, 4 in the morning working on a Friday night till the next day, and she would wake up, even as a maybe 10-year-old, she would wake up and say, "Mommy, you worked hard last night. I made you some coffee," and she will make me some coffee. So that's kind of like I love that they thought of me and they'd be like, "Hey, we know you're tired." They'll be like, "Let her sleep. She worked all night long," you know.
Yeah, that's nice.
They're good kids.
You mentioned when you went into Facebook, that's sort of what lit the, let's say, the fire, and it sort of grew more, right?
Yes. So it wasn't just going on Facebook. I think when you post on Facebook, you kind of have to be conscious of what you post to, the type of material, right? Like you're like, well, if I want to get more of this type of cake per se, you have to post those type of cakes. But also, it's the quality of the pictures themselves have to be good. So that's also what I learned in the beginning. I was just I'm posting pictures every day. I'm so happy I just made this cake. Well, you guys got to, see it. But then I realized the audience kind of amplified once I started putting better quality images of my products. Once I started posting like those clear pictures of different angles, like kind of highlighting what I wanted to show, I started getting more calls and started getting more requests.
I like that you mentioned this. So were you using, would you say, a different equipment, or was it just now a different angle with better lighting, or what changed from before?
Oh, I had a whole setup in my house.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
had the umbrellas. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try with this. You try like little things.
Yeah.
I got those like, they're like studio umbrellas,
Hmm.
and then I got myself. Phones have gotten a lot better now, but when back then the pictures they took were okay.
Hmm.
I got one of those DSLR cameras and I learned how to use them. I taught myself how to use them and take pictures with those. So I taught myself a lot of things.
Wow. So it was almost like almost a professional photographer, but just with
Okay.
pastries and baking. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say professional, but I learned a good things, just to kind of like get the best angles I could and better resolution. But it helps, believe it or not, if somebody's out there and they're just getting started, good images do sell better.
It's interesting you mentioned this. I was talking to my brother a while ago, and he's into sort of flipping shoes, where you buy shoes
Mhm.
and you resell them. And he tells me how he gets deals because he buys in what platform I think is like maybe he buys on eBay, but the seller, horrible pictures you can barely see, and then he matches them back and forth, gets a deal, brings them down, and then he resells them with a higher price. But then the picture, the quality, there's better lighting, different angles, but different backdrop. So it does the images. It is a big difference.
It is. It really is. So that was kind of like one of those whoa, aha moments. I realized, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if I just take that extra 15, 20 minutes with every cake that I'm doing and then set it up, take good pictures, then I know I'm going to get more responses. So,
You also
and
meant you also mentioned, Claudia, how you said it's highlighting a specific type of cake. So were you also thinking, I want to work on this type of cake better than other, so let me highlight that instead?
exactly. So when you're starting, I think it's just you're kind of like just happy you get customers, right? You're like, oh my
Sure.
gosh, I got this order. You take anything and everything, and it's kind of like a rite of passages with all of us. If you're a business owner, you know what I'm talking about. You take anything and everything because you haven't really experienced yet what it is like what your niche is, right? So I would be like, you want gluten free? Okay, got it. Like I don't know how to make it, but I learned. And you want this and you want that, and then as time went by, as the years went by, I realized, well, I don't find as much joy doing this case, or they are too time consuming and not feasible to do them, financially. So
Sure.
I was like, so I kind of like, you kind of realize I want to do this type. And then, as time goes on, you kind of like, while it becomes smaller, it becomes more refined. I think the product quality is just because you're doing what you love. And I always say that when somebody gives me a cake or something I really enjoy and they go, look, you do what you want, you're the expert, I thrive. Those are the best cakes. Those are the cakes where people are like, oh my gosh, like I loved it. I fell in love as soon as I saw it. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I love that having that. So
Yeah. And then how did it evolve as far as then you thinking, okay, maybe now I'm at a certain point to actually have my own physical location, my own bakery shop?
well, I think a couple years into it, maybe 3, 4 years into it, I was like, well, I would love to have a bakery. It was kind of like a dream you have in the back of
Hmm.
your head that you don't think is gonna come true, but maybe it will. as time went by, okay, I really want this dream. I think I really want it. So you keep telling, I know I'm working towards it now. It's not just oh, it popped in my head one day and I think I'm gonna do it. It's more like I'm working towards it. Like as it got busier and busier, I was like, I can no longer do it from home. And my husband was very supportive when I told him, look, I want to open up a bakery and I need your support. And he said, the funniest thing is that I put off telling him that I really wanted a bakery for years because I didn't think that he was gonna be so open about it. I knew he would support me because I know who he is, but I was like, it is a big thing because it's not easy opening a bakery, any type of business, especially a brick and mortar in a commercial setting. It's not easy, and so I put it off. And the day I told him, he looked back at me. He said, "You know how long I've been waiting for you to tell me you want to open a bakery?" And I just laughed. And I was like, "I cannot believe this. I could have just told you sooner, right?"
I'm
But I
even
love him
shocked.
for that.
Yeah, I'm even shocked he didn't mention it before, as far as like, hey, what about maybe this in the future one day as a goal or dream, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it crossed his mind, but we never talked about it really serious. Or where we said, "Hey, let's set a goal. Let's go look up places. Let's do our homework." It
Hmm.
wasn't never really like it was like, "Yeah, one day, yeah." You kind of like, not too serious about it, but I was serious always. It's just like never like went to him and said, "Let's do it. Like this is the time." So I'm just blessed that he is like that and he supported me along the way because opening the shop was not easy. The build out was stressful.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to briefly get into that too. When you thought about opening finally your first the brick and mortar, was it just you still doing everything, Claudia? You baking, you marketing, you everything?
Oh yeah, I was a one woman show. I was writing up the orders, going everything, deliveries, everything. I was doing like eating classes. I was doing everything, but I was like, once we open, I can't do it everything. You you
Hmm.
you can't do everything. You want to be there at every step, but you can't. You kind of eventually have to let it go and be like, I have to get the right people to help me realize my dream.
Yeah, no, definitely delegate. You were just mentioning as far as the build out. So I assume you went into a space that was just a shell and you had to do the kitchen and everything else, right?
Yes, everything here we had to do from the floor to the wiring and everything.
How was that experience for you?
Oh, when people ask me if I want to do it again, I say no. At least not a retail one. I I think the time we picked and by the time we got the place, COVID was like right in the middle. Like I think it was we opened in 2022 and we built out during 2021. It took a long time, longer than it should have, but it was because one, the demand, like there was no contractors that wanted to take on the commercial work. Because there was a lot of work at that moment. Everybody was either selling houses or everybody was building, so there
Sure.
wasn't contractors willing to take the work. And if they were, things had tripled. Not only materials, but the labor itself had tripled. So it was a bad timing, I guess, at the moment. But things happen for a reason. I know people say that all the time, but it happened for a reason. It was stressful, but it took a while. But we opened the shop. Wow, I learned a lot.
Yeah. So it was in the middle of COVID then when you started having the idea as far as your shop and
Yes.
then going
Mhm.
out there and looking and finding it.
Yes, we will go. We will go with the kids in the car and be like, "Hey, let's go to different shopping centers. Let's do our homework. Let's go during the day, during the night. Let's see
Yes.
how much traffic it gets." And then when I walked into this one, I told him, "This is it." I said, "Like I feel it, you feel it," and he's like, "This is it," and we knew it was the right spot for us.
Oh, that's great. How big is your space?
So it's not that big, but it's perfect for what we do here. It's 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
We make every inch count. Like we use everything.
Yeah, with that size, you have to.
So we don't have like a tables to sit and have like a coffee here and eat here per se, but everybody mostly takes to go anyway, so it works out.
Were you at all, I'm trying to put yourself in that situation with COVID and looking for space, and you always have that in back of your mind, this pandemic and what you're hearing in the news and all these things going on. Were you at all sort of maybe even second guessing or just talking with your husband? Are we doing the right thing? Is it the right time?
There was
What's
a
going
lot of
through your
times I think
mind?
when you question your decision because you're like, well, this is no longer gonna cost this much, it's gonna be this much and it's gonna take this long. There was times where it was a struggle to just try to get the plans fixed and, the engineer to look at this and then the architect to look at this. And then once they looked at it, you submit it to the county. By the way, a big shout out to the county. They're amazing. They work with me along this. They got to know me. They're like, oh, that's the bakery lady. Because they saw me that many times over there. They even met my little daughter because she had to go everywhere with me to get, we submitted the plans. We need a revision and whatnot, but they were amazing. But yeah, there is a lot of times where you kind of like second guess your decision. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? I'm like, should we be finished? But at that point, you're in a contract one.
Yeah.
You had invested a lot of money. Either you finish it or you lose. So which one is it, right? I think there was a breaking point where it had been 5 months, I think, where we had signed the lease already and nothing had been even built. Because we were going back and forth trying to do revisions and it got denied again. I remember calling my husband that day and I was like, hey, today I just need you to take care of the kids and I'm not gonna do anything. Like I just need alone time. And he knew it because like in all the years we've been married, I never had asked him to just kind of like take over, and I just needed a little bit of time. We had gotten too many obstacles by that point. We had this or that, and then so many things were happening, and at that point it was kind of another denial. And then we're like, and I told myself, you know what, I'm not allowed today myself to I'm gonna feel bad for myself. I'm allow myself to break down and cry and whatever I need to do. So tomorrow I can wake up and, do this. And I did that. Like it was in all these years, I allowed myself to I told the kids, I'm gonna turn the lights off, got in my bed. It was the middle of the afternoon. And I'm like, I can't believe this happened, cry it out. The next morning I got up, I called everybody I have to call and I got things done and here we are.
I love that.
You need that.
You needed that reset just briefly.
And it's okay to break down and say, you know what, I can cope with this at this moment. I feel overwhelmed. It's too much. As long as you pick yourself back up the next day, it's okay.
I love that story, Claudia. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, well, okay.
So you finally get to the finish line and you're about to open. When is the grand opening, if you remember?
It was April 15.
Okay.
We did a soft opening a week before, but we did April 15 was our day.
Of 2022. 22.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you open, here I am. I'm in your first shop, planting the flag. Then obviously you were telling most of the clients and demand was coming in through social and then word of mouth. Did that continue once you opened the shop or did anything change then?
Oh yeah, no, I kept people updated. I was like, oh, the shop is, we're doing this at the shop. From the moment we're like, hey, we signed the lease, hey, we're doing the demo. Like I would show them the floor got done. And you kind of have to build that momentum, right? Because there is a lapse between the construction and us doing work because we had moved too, that I couldn't do work at all. And, I was focused entirely on the construction. I managed the construction of this place. So I had to kind of find content per se. So, and people love that too. People love that you kind of put yourself out there and be like, hey, I'm doing this, or we're working on this next, or guess what? My husband's installing the floor. So we kind of I kept them updated up until, the day. And even now I try to post as frequently as sometimes I don't because other things, take over sometimes, but I do try to post as frequently as I can.
No, that's great. Were you mostly sharing in Facebook or Instagram, or which platform were you mostly active on?
I would say Instagram, but I do a lot of TikToks as well. Yeah, I got TikTok, but I love TikTok now, so I learned a lot of things there too. So I share on 3 of them mainly: TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
TikTok, I can think of right now, and I'm sure I have more, but I can think of 2 clients. One is a taqueria, and then another one, she exports from other countries, and their businesses, multiple 6 figures, was in less than 12 months, all built on TikTok. So hey.
And it's true, like you gotta be out there where your customers are, right? You gotta put yourself out there. And some people find us through TikTok and they'll be like, well, where are you located? And then they'll be like, we'll say that. And then they start following us on Instagram. And it kind of goes from one to the other, right?
Yeah.
And we try to post slightly different content in all of them. Just like you were saying, you have a longer video for YouTube, or you have a smaller clip for Instagram, kind of the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I'm sure when you're working from home for now, your shop, everything has changed and evolved. What would you say is the big difference?
Having my own space, like having I wouldn't say privacy because I mean I have coworkers and stuff. You know, we have employees, but having that division between home and work. I back then I would kind of wait for the kids to go to sleep because if they were a baby or whatever, I'll put them to sleep and then go work downstairs till like in the middle of the night, whatever. That's usually where it's quiet and peaceful, where I could actually concentrate. Even in the middle of the day with all the chaos of like the toddlers climbing up and down. But here, it's peaceful. That's what I found here. Like I can come in and work at any time of the day, whether it's from one day to the next, and that's happened by the way. I can work 24 hours straight sometimes, but I'll put on music and I'll come in, and even if it's just by myself, I'll work here. I just enjoy being able to have my own space because it allows for my creativity to come out. Like I can kind of think, oh, I could come up with this, and then that's kind of how new flavors come about too. I'm like, oh, I was thinking about this, and you have more room to think. I think so. I love it here.
Do you have a certain schedule, meaning that you wake up and you want to be in the shop by a certain time and start turning the equipment, the ovens on and everything else, or does it change day by day?
So the first year when we opened, I literally was here from like 4 in the morning, sometimes 5 in the morning, up until 7, 8. I work easily 60 to 80 hours because it was just me, my sister, and one more employee, which is three of us when we started. As time went by, we got more employees, and that's where you want to go, right? You want to grow slowly but surely. And now I actually do less baking now, and I do more I'm either creating content, reaching that back to clients. I'm trying to stay on top of emailing back. I'm trying to come up with new things. I have to come up with menus. So it kind of you're on a different, other responsibilities now. Like it's no longer I have to create a cake and that this is it, right? No, I do still create all the cakes that are made here. I make them, but I don't bake as much anymore because we had a head baker. We have even a manager. I'm sorry about that. But my schedule has changed completely. While I work here every single day, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I think he has it, but so I actually don't come here as early anymore. Our baker does. I come here and bake with her, or we'll come up with new things. I'm still here every day, but I try to kind of have a balance. Well, I'll be here like, let's say 9 to 4, 9 to 3, or sometimes if I come later in the day, then I'll be here till past closing or on my days off.
Sure.
I do that because now I don't want to, like I said, I was missing my children. The first year was the harshest for everybody in my family because they were used to mom being at home and everything. My husband had to step up and, he already did a lot of things, but he had to kind of take care of everything because I didn't have time anymore. But now that I have the people, my team's amazing. They're like the best. We get along pretty well. So having their support, I can actually, hey, you know what? The kids have this activity today. I'm going to leave early, or I'll come and go as I need to. I'll work, obviously I'll work long hours when we need to, but it's not as bad anymore, which is nice because at the end of the day, like I want to be there for my kids. I might not be able to be there for every single event, but I want to be there when I can.
Sure. No, I love the evolution of the business. Most of us start working in the business. Like you said, you were doing everything, and now it's more on the business with the operations or the marketing and so on and so forth. You just mentioned several times now, Claudia, as far as your team and the importance of your team. I understand at the beginning you were wearing all the hats, but now it looks much different. How is your team? How does it look like today? And how do you go about finding and hiring the right people to put in the right roles?
So I think for everyone, it's a tough market. Like finding the right people, it's hard. But I think I won't say as long, but as long as you treat people with respect and you're like kind to each other, and then there's like, clear rules and expectations for the beginning from like interview point, I think that helps because you're like, hey, I expect this and this from you, but you also should expect this and this from me as an owner. And so that helps, I think, a lot because people tend to stay. And I always say, yeah, there's always going to be that one employee that's not the greatest, but the majority of the people have gotten here, they're amazing. And if they had to leave, that it was usually because they have to go to college or something. But they always come back to visit me, and I think that says a lot because they like the people they work with, and it makes me feel nice that they come back to visit me. So I wasn't such a bad boss, I guess. Because if they come back, that's a good sign, right?
Yeah. No, it sounds like you build a great culture, especially if they're coming back and visiting, at least saying hello.
Oh yeah, they text me too. Uh, we had such great, not just employees, but they're such good human beings, so kind. So like my team, like I said in the beginning, I was working so much, I will forget to drink water, coffee, or like they're like, well, you didn't even eat, and I'm like, because I'm so focused. I'm like, this is like me, like I'm so focused on what I have to do. I'm like a little machine when I'm working, like. So they were like, hey, I brought you water. That's how kind they were. So I love them for that, and I really appreciate them.
How did you find those people? Because I'm hearing two different camps, especially with clients who are in the food service business. There's one camp that I
Mhm.
hear that, especially with COVID, all these people left the industry. Some are trickling back in, and some are having difficulties finding the right people. Then there's the other camp I see that a lot of them are having success, and what I'm seeing is because they've built a culture and around it, and then that's why people are sort of coming into them and being attracted by them. So how have
So
you found them?
one, a lot of people want to get paid decently, right? Like they want a good
Of
amount of money.
course.
But I think when it comes down to it, I've had kids or even any like if any age group, they come in and they go, hey, this is how much I'm making somewhere else. And they're like, but it's really not about the money. I'm stressed. It's toxic where I'm working, and I see kind of like I can tell how you are, and I think this would be a good fit for me. That's literally what they said to me verbatim. They're like, it's toxic where I want to be somewhere else where I'm happy. It's more or less about the money. Obviously, they do want to make money, but it's
Sure.
more, I want to be treated with respect and kindness when I go to work. Like
Hmm.
I don't want to be in that environment. I think that's just a lot too. I think the reason most people stay in there happy, like when you have like let's say coworkers you get along with and that you click with and you're like, hey, we can laugh together. Work it's lighter. Even though you're working the same amount of work that you would have anyways, it becomes lighter. It becomes easier. Time goes by faster. You enjoy it. You look forward to like you always have that one peer that you get along better, and even a
Hmm.
coworker. Like we all get along, but I know like such and such loves working with this person, and then when they work together, like, oh, she's coming in, and we're like, oh, they're like, excited, and whatever. So that's nice because you look forward to that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why they stay with us, I think. The reason usually they leave us is like I said, it's because they have to go to college or something comes up, and we're really happy. Like we had an employee here, and I love him. He still comes here. He still texts me from time to time, and he got a better opportunity because obviously this was not the career that he was choosing. He was our second employee. Basically, I hired him during the build out, and he grew up with Silan. He like his personality completely came out. It's kind of like this was his first job, and when he got offered an internship in the field he wanted, we celebrated with him. We're like, oh my gosh, we're so proud of you. We're so happy. Yes, we were sad to see him go,
Sure.
but we care for him, and we knew that that was the next path he needed to take for him to go where he wanted to go. So we're happy for him. And I think that that's nice to have people that actually genuinely are happy for your successes or so yeah, that's one of them. And I had somebody else I think came in and from they left to college, but they came during the holiday. I wasn't here, but they were telling me, so it's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. What would you say drives and motivates you?
Mm, I would say my goals. Now that the kids are a little bit older, I I always say it's time for me to be a little selfish. Obviously, I want my kids and everything, and they are one of my drives. But also, the other big factor is my happiness is also important. As a mom or as a parent, you tend to put that in the back burner and you're like, yes, I want the kids to be happy. I'm going to do what's best for them. And you kind of forget yourself sometimes, especially as a woman. I think we forget that sometimes that our happiness matters. And um, so that's my biggest drive. I want to be happy. I want to be doing what I love, but I also want to be financially successful at it too.
Hmm.
So that's my biggest drive.
What would you say, I guess, makes you happy now?
Uh, Being able to be creative, I think, being able to kind of like create new things and people enjoy it. I think the biggest perk about like what makes me really happy on a day to day is when people come in and they take a whiff out of there and like, oh, it smells so good. And they're like, and then they taste the product, or they'll come and tell me stories. Like I have random people, like I'll be upfront. I'm not as front as much anymore if I'm baking or I'm in my office and whatever, but sometimes they'll be like, oh, can I talk to Claudia? And or they'll walk in, they're like, I just have to pop in and tell you I had that coconut cake and it was just like my grandma made it. Those little things matter so much to me. And I think it matters to me because it made them happy. It made think of, not only did they think about what we made, but it brought them back to somewhere else, like a memory, right? Like truly when they eat, like, let's say a banana pudding or something like that, they're like, oh, it takes you back to either your childhood or a happy moment. And I created that for you. It might be something so little to me, like, because I'm making all these things, but to you, it kind of like, even for those seconds, you were happy. So it's rewarding.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the best when the other person appreciates it, what you've done, and they know the value. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Like you said, it takes you back here or there, or it just tastes delicious. And they tell you that. It's just wow. Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. I can't tell. This community has been amazing. Like from the day we opened, like they were like, oh my gosh, we have our own bakery now. And then they were like very excited about it. They'll come in and like, but I just have to say hello. I had a cupcake the other day, and then you just walk out. And then, they've been really supportive. Everyone around here has been supportive. I think one of our biggest supporters is actually a local group called the Ladies of Lake Ridge. They're a local group right here on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. And every few days we get somebody coming in, somebody new, and goes, I tell you what, it's like still talking about you. They talk about you all the time in that group, and I had to try you because I keep seeing this post, and then that's kind of nice, right? They're still saying good things about you even a year after you open because they're still coming here. They're awesome. Like I love my community here.
I'm telling you, those Facebook local community groups are they do
The best.
wonders for small, medium-sized local businesses. I mean,
They do.
yeah, my wife's on them, and a lot of the people we've used, even just for our home or maybe want to try something else, she's like, hey, snapshot, look at this. Let's call this person or that person. Let's go there. Yeah.
They are. I mean, not to say like every experience we had has been the best. There's always that one person, but I
Mm-hmm.
think as time goes by, you kind of realize, okay, I'll be honest, I'm a perfectionist. Like, and that's also my downfall. If you tell me something, I'm like, okay, I'll take it and I'll think about it for a couple hours, but I've learned to put it away. Like now, before I would dwell on it longer, but now it's like if it's something bad or whatever, I think about it, I address the problem, or if it was a legit problem, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's not. But I kind of put it aside because I go, nope, we're better than that. We can do better, and then I move on from it. But overall, I would say almost everybody has been awesome here. The feedback, the support. We have regulars. We know people by name. So I think that's also why they come back here, because they're like a little family. We know, like they'll be like, oh, I went so and so. I'm taking this over here. Like it's nice.
Yeah, that's the best. Claudia, what advice would you give to someone if they came to you and they wanted to open any type of business? Maybe it's a bakery, maybe it's not, or maybe it's in the food business or not. It doesn't matter. But any pointers that they should look out for in advice?
I think they need to come up with one. I know they always say this, but a business plan. One, two, kind of like do your homework. Location is very important. It's crucial. I can't tell you how many people are still finding. They're like, I didn't even know you were here, but because of the location, they're just walking either to the grocery store or the store next door, and they're like, they find us, right? So
Mm-hmm.
location is a big one. Budget everything and add a lot on the side just in case. So and plan because it will take longer than you think it will.
Yes, definitely. It reminds me of we recently had on the show the founder and CEO of Fresh Baguette. They have several locations all over DC, North Virginia, and he's French, and he had to sell his business in France to fund the first location he was having. He was building out in Rockville, Maryland, but it just takes longer, and it's a lot of more money than what you anticipated originally.
It is, and it's those times where you question, did I do the right thing? I mean, should I kind of edit this design or whatever? But you kind of learn as you go too. I know that if I ever did it again, I knew what not to do and what to do. I don't know if I'll do the retail location, but hopefully I'll do like a warehouse or something if we need to grow. Because my next goal is to like maybe do deliveries, have a whole custom online ordering thing where we can, like, let's say cookies ship out and then cakes deliver and things like that, cupcakes. That will be the next goal once we get big enough.
That's great. Are there any specific habits or traits you feel that you have that have helped you, whether on the business or even just outside personally?
I think so. So going back to my childhood, my mom used to have a couple of stores, like small stores, like artisan things of crafts in Bolivia. And I used to help her sell things. Part of like my personality is I'm very like, I'm an extrovert, so I like to talk and people like to talk back at me. So I'm a good salesperson, I would say. I know like maybe a salesperson is not the best name to use. I don't know, but I can sell anything because I can describe it very well. And also because I love what I do, it comes natural. So when people ask me, what flavor do you think I should do or whatever, and they're like, oh, I love the way you describe it. I want to try that. So that helped a lot. So from I was little, I was able to sell and it just comes natural to me.
Well, that's great. I mean, you need sales. I think one of them, I mean, that's the first line in the balance sheet is revenue with sales, the money coming in. If you don't have that, nothing else really exists below there.
Exactly. As much as the product we put out is good, right? So you have to have a good product, one. But if you don't have somebody promoting it out there, it's kind of hard because if you even if you have your regulars, sometimes they'll just get the same exact thing over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can kind of be like, hey, we have this today, and then we're gonna, like you should try this or something like that. Then you can sell an extra thing. It's an extra cookie. They grab an extra 6-pack and things like that. So I'm lucky I found our manager. It's kind of like similar personality as mine. So it's nice to have another like person like me up front that she can, and she's passionate about baking goods. So it helps because that helps sell as well.
What would you say is your biggest challenge with your role at Angel's Bake Shop today?
My biggest challenge. It's I guess because we are new-ish, I would say we're not too new. It's kind of like um it's unpredictable because it's food. So
Mm-hmm.
my biggest challenge is kind of guessing how much it will sell and how much to produce to limit the amount of waste. So we've gone, luckily everything is electronic nowadays, so you can look back and that's how we determine, hey, we should close this weekend because it's not worth opening. The sales were low last year and we can kind of see a pattern. Now, as time goes by, I think we'll be able to tell a better pattern. You can look back at your sales per day and per weekend and be like, okay, this holiday was a bust. It was not good. Let's not open that day. Or yes, this holiday it's big payoff. Let's plan beforehand. And so that's kind of my biggest challenge right now, trying to figure out what to sell, when to sell it, and how much of it on a day-to-day basis. We're getting better, but it's a work in progress.
Sure. No, and I'm sure that comes with time. I was just texting last week with a restaurant owner and mentioning how, sales are going to pick up. And I'm like, okay, he was like, the summer is my slow months. And then fall comes, it starts revving back up. And like there's ebbs and flows to it.
Exactly. So one thing I learned, like last year when we opened the summer, we were new. So, and like I said, I'm winging it. Like this is my first shop. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I'm just learning as I'm going, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, we're new. That's why we were slow in the summer. And then this summer, I kind of like, okay, it is slower. So I kind of like, now I know that for next year, we will adjust better. We will adjust our hours, the products, kind of to reflect that as well. So we can plan better.
So I have to ask Claudia, the name Angel's Bake Shop, where did it come from? How'd you think about it?
So I never wanted to open a shop that had my name on it because I don't know, the way it sounds like Claudia's Cakes didn't sound that good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to have a meaningful name. So we named it after my father. My dad passed away when I was 7 years old. And it was kind of a way to carry on his name because like you're asking me why his name so I can kind of talk about him. I keep his memory alive, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that. By any
Yeah,
chance,
my
it,
daughter.
go ahead.
My daughter's named after him, and so is my sister. So it's kind of nice.
Oh, that's nice. That's great. Okay. I didn't know that part. What do you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your business career?
I'll say learn how to say no. Learn that's one big thing. Sometimes you want to And I think I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day. I was telling them, not all money is good money. And you're thinking, what do you mean? Like money is money, right? Well, no, as time go by, you learn that some work is worth taking and some isn't. I now value back then, even when I was working from home, I did a lot of things that were taking extra time and I was not valuing that. I was like, they were like, oh, can you add this and that? Sure. And then I wouldn't charge extra for it. I wouldn't value my time as much. So now that I'm here at the store, every minute counts and matters. Like I look at it from a total different perspective. And I looking back, I go, I wish I had valued my work better. But that's where you learn too. So now I value every minute. And now I know my work does matter. Our time
Hmm.
matters because now it's not just me. Now I have somebody else maybe doing it. And then you kind of have to, yes, you can do this for a customer and go above the extra mile, but also value your time. I think that's very important. That's time is money, literally it is. So
No, that's true. Coming to an end here soon now, Claudia, what are you most excited about in the future? What does the next couple of years look like for you?
I don't know. My next hopefully short-term goal is to have lines out the door one day to be like you kind of have to wait in line to get something from us. So that's my next goal. My long-term goal is that when you think of Lake Ridge, they're like automatically people go, hey, have you been to Angels? Kind of like that. That's what I want. I mean, knowing the community and be like, hey, if somebody mentions Lake Ridge, they'll be like, hey, you got to try this at Angels. You got to stop by, like that's my next goal.
Sure.
And after that, if we grow, like I said, maybe open a warehouse where we produce stuff, where we do deliveries and things like that, where people we already have the online shop and where you can click, but we don't have deliveries yet and things like that. But where we get a lot big enough where we can produce and do that.
So grow more sort of the DTC direct to consumer avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you plan maybe in the future being on shelves at stores? Is that in your mind or no, since we're talking about direct to consumer? Or is it
Uh,
just directly to
I
you?
don't, I don't know being in stores and things like that. I think we would lose a little bit of our. Um, I think I don't know if this happens, but I picture if we start mass producing, maybe some of our essence will be lost. I think part of
Hmm.
what makes us who we are is because we do small batches. We're passionate about what we do. Even our head baker, she loves baking. That's kind of like one of was always one of her like the things she loved doing. So it translates to food and everything you do. If you enjoy it, things come out good, right? So I don't know about that. I didn't think about that yet, but hopefully if I can reach out more people in the community and still produce at the level we're producing the quality, then maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. When you're not busy working with and operating the business, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
For fun in my free, I don't even have free time.
That
I like
doesn't
spending time with
exist.
my dogs. I'll take that. I'll spend time with my dogs. I love my dogs. They are crazy. They are in their puppy stage, like 9, 10 months old. They're destroying
Uh,
things around my house because they're chewing stuff. But I love spending time with them. Like they're playful, and I just kind of like laughing with them and all that. So, and then spending time with the kids, obviously. But I love dogs.
you have two of them? Two
Yes, I
puppies?
do. I have two.
Okay.
Yes, they're Frenchies. One of them is so they're a brother and sister and total different personalities. So uh, I love the boys calm and chill and then just very smart, like really smart. And then the other one is the sweetest thing you can see. So they're both following me around everywhere. They're like a good companionship.
That's good. So, Claudia, if people want to learn more about you and Angel's Bake Shop, where can they go? Where are you located? Where can they get more information?
So we are located at the Glen. It's 4220 Merchant Plaza here in Lake Ridge. We open every day of the week except Mondays. I'm off on Mondays always. And we carry different flavors of cupcakes every day and cakes. We also do different pastries like cream puffs. So cream puffs are even popular here. We make the pastry cream entirely from scratch. We make the shells from scratch. We started a pie season now, so we started to make pies. We want to be ready for Thanksgiving, so they can always find us here. If they can't make it, they can always call us and we can reserve things for you guys. And if they want to see in real time what we have on hand, they can always check out the website at angelsbakeshop.com and they can see our products and buy stuff there for pickup as well.
Fantastic. Claudia, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. This hour went by so fast.
That's good. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure talking to you as well. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.